I gave up many times. I had $100 to my name at one point. I almost lost my house in foreclosure at another point. I drove Uber at another point. I just never gave up. I don't know. It's like in my blood to just not give up.
Welcome to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of wholesaling and house flipping businesses. The systems and automation that we discuss will help you build a real business instead of another job for yourself. From beginners to those doing hundreds of thousands a year, we go deep into the details and strategies that are working today. And now your host, Bill Allen.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Seven Figure Flipping Podcast. This is Bill Allen, and we just got done this leadership series. So we're doing a series about leadership, about my mentors, brought on Jocko, brought on the EOS coach that I had, my dad. I just brought on, the last podcast we just did that you guys listened to was an old CO, an old commanding officer of mine at HSC 23 for the Navy, and he shared some of his leadership wisdom. And I feel like over the past couple weeks, past 3 weeks or so, we've been talking to We've definitely been talking to the people who are just getting going, but we're mainly kind of been talking to the people who are already running a company, have a lot of people that are on their team, following them, those kind of things. So what I wanted to do here today is I wanted to go back to talking to some of our members. So some of the Runway and Altitude members. So a lot of you guys know we've kind of rebranded the company under Seven Figure Flipping. We created two groups as I took over the company. So we have the Seven Figure Runway program, this group that we rolled out at Flip Hacking Live, and we have the Seven Figure Altitude group, which a lot of you know as the old Seven Figure Flipping group. So what I wanted to do is bring on some of those members and talk to them a little bit about Flip Hacking Live, what's going on in their experience, and just kind of do a couple interviews with some of our members that have recently joined and jumped into the mastermind group or have been members for a while. So this is the first part of that series. So I'm going to have some Runway and Altitude members come on over the next couple weeks and just kind of find out more about their business, where they are, and kind of what they're doing. So without further ado, I have a good friend of mine and somebody who's been around our groups for a while, Marina Sud. Hey, Marina.
Hey, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for taking the time and coming on with me. And so before we get going, have you been on the podcast before? I think you have.
Yeah, I've been on a podcast with Justin and then a couple of other people.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think I remember one with you and Justin as you were kind of getting going. It was very early on, I think, in like House Flipping Formula or something. Is that right?
Yeah, I think my goal at that point was like to make $250,000 a year to gross. I remember that. Awesome.
So I tell you what, we'll find that podcast and we'll kind of link it in the show notes so people can see that and see where you were and where you are now. So let's just assume. Oh yeah, you look great. Let's just assume that nobody knows kind of who you are, and just share with everybody who you are, where you are, what you're doing.
I am Marina Sud. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky. I have a wholesaling business called Sisters Who Buy Houses. I've been around for about 5 years, but really seriously, like a real business for the last 2 years.
Okay. So what's your background? Where are you from?
So I was born in Russia, which is actually Ukraine now. And I came to the United States when I was 9 years old. Okay.
And is your sister younger or older than you?
My sister is younger.
Okay. So do you think that gives you any advantage in like kind of working here, what was your parents like when you were growing up and stuff like that?
I think it makes me work pretty hard. We came here, there were 6 of us, and we had $500, and that's all we had to our name, and nobody spoke English. So, working hard is kind of part of my life.
Yeah. I can see that in you for sure. Definitely. You're constantly like a thirsting for knowledge and asking questions and things like that, always involved. Where did you guys move to when your parents came over here?
We lived in Italy for a little while, and then we moved to Louisville, where I'm at now. That's basically primarily where I grew up. And then I went away to school in Chicago, New York, and came back to Louisville 10 years ago after my father died. And I worked for the Army for about 4.5 years.
What'd you do for them?
Psychologist.
Uh-oh. As long as the tables don't turn today, I'll be happy. So, okay. It's funny because we have a Air Force psychologist in the altitude group also.
Oh,
They live over in Dover now. So they invest in Oklahoma City. So I have to link you guys up. You guys can get everybody on the couch. All right. So you did that for a while. Then what got you into the real estate business? Why did you make that jump?
I was at my job as a contractor, and I bought my house, the first house I ever bought, and rehabbed it and got into the whole flipping side. Thought it was really cool. And then about 4 months after buying it, I found that my contract was ending. And so I was not going to have a job, and I had a new house. So I was like, well, I want to be a flipper, and I'm used to going to school. So I decided to go to real estate school and get my real estate license. And then I kind of worked my way into wholesaling. Within 6 months of having my license and working very hard and making no money, I noticed one of the investors that I was working for, she'd be making like $8,000 at closing, and I'd make $1,000. And I was like, what are you doing? And she didn't want to tell me. I was like, well, too bad. I'm going to find out anyway. So I got my license in March of 2014. By October of 2014, I did my first wholesale deal, and I was off and running from that point.
Okay. So it's interesting. A lot of times agents are kind of against wholesaling, right? Especially, it sounds like you went into as a retail real estate agent. So that's really those are the agents who are like, no, for me, I was an investor, I was a flipper and starting to do that. And then I said, I'm going to get my real estate license because I'm tired of waiting for people to open the doors for me, because I was buying off the MLS and foreclosure auctions and stuff. And so that's why I went to get my license. Usually the realtors that go get their license and spend 6 months in the retail world are anti-investor. So I guess you were working with some.
Yeah, the one that I started working for this woman immediately, and it was all investor related. Like, she actually trained me from before I even had my license, all specific to looking for investment properties for her. So I never really knew anything outside of that. So I think it worked pretty well.
Okay. So then you've been a pure wholesaler the whole time after that? You just started wholesaling?
My entire life as a real estate agent, I had one listing and one buyer. And after that, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. That's not for me.
Yeah. I've done a couple of those as I was trying to figure this game out. And so I represented a couple of friends, and it's just has been a nightmare. But yeah, have you been a heavy flipper, or was that kind of that one property and then you went right into wholesaling after that?
I never flipped any properties. It was my own residence. I had a contractor. I list my wholesale deals. I do use my license. That's how I use it. And that's really been the game changer, I would say, for me.
Okay. But you haven't always been doing that. So that was somewhat recently you started doing that, right?
Yeah. I started doing that a couple of years ago after one of our calls. Mike was like, you can list on MLS. And I was like, oh my God. That was, it was pretty awesome.
So let's talk about that. So what were you doing before that? You were building the buyer's list, sending it out to your buyer's list and everything?
Yeah, building buyer's list, sending it out, and just not really not a big buyer's list or what I do, update or not, just not selling the deals to our buyers at the time. So a lot of them fell apart. Now we put them on the market, and most of them close. So
they're good deals, but not being able to sell them and sell the contract. So I saw that in Pensacola a lot when I was starting to wholesale, and it wasn't getting a ton of traction. My fees were really low. I'd have to kind of make $2,000 to $6,000. I think we averaged about $6,000 my first year. And now we're somewhere in the $12,000 down there, and in the 20s here in Nashville, just because it's a bigger city. It costs a lot more to get the deal though. Mm-hmm. So you probably have a similar market in Louisville with some cheaper type properties and stuff like that. So maybe your fees were lower before you were listing on the MLS, or potentially not finding a buyer.
Yeah, not even finding a buyer. So yeah.
And so how did that change after you started listing houses on the MLS?
I was consistently selling, so I actually had a business as opposed to starving to death, getting a deal, being happy, then depressed because there was no deal, for 2 months, the roller coaster. I actually had a steady business.
Okay. So, and do you have any idea of what your kind of average fees were before and what they were after when you're kind of listing them on the MLS?
They're kind of all over the place. Probably MLS average fees are like 8,000-9,000, something like that, but less too. They could be a couple of thousand. I'm not going to say no,
you just do deals. So let's go back. You started wholesaling, you started getting your license and you started wholesaling. And when did you find kind of like our community? Was it around that time that you started learning, or was it later? What did that look like?
I think you guys were around for about a year. I heard a podcast with Sharon Warnhall with Andy, and he was talking about systems, like kind of describing his company. And I had one of those aha moments. I was like, wow, like I want to do that. And so that was it. I was off and running looking for Andy.
So what attracted you to that kind of model, the systems and process type stuff?
To hear that somebody could do that, because I wasn't surrounded by people that believed you could do that. The attitude's mainly been like, oh, you can get a few deals here and there. You can't make a business out of wholesaling. You should be happy to make a few $1,000s. That's pretty much the attitudes that I've come across here in my market. So just to know that it's possible, he did it.
Yeah. And so just for anybody that's listening, I don't want to put words in Marina's mouth, but when I heard Andy and Justin talking about this stuff, it was kind of having a business that has people that operate inside the company and can kind of run without you. A lot of the stuff that we've been talking about the past few weeks as being a leader and being a business owner, not just being a side hustle real estate investor that does occasional deals and has no prediction of what's coming up in the future and what they do. And you're constantly running from project to project. And because that was my problem. I was flipping a house a year and I felt like I was doing hundreds of hours of work a week because I was going to Home Depot and I was doing the work myself and I was doing everything just for one house. So that was my struggle. Is that sound about right?
Yeah. I mean, I've never flipped a house. I have no desire to ever flip a house. Like our fees are good enough to where it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, So yeah, unless it's a rental that I'm going to hold on to, then that's different. But I don't want to flip anything.
It's funny because it's pretty rare, I think, that I come across a wholesaler that doesn't think that the grass is greener on the other side and a flipper who doesn't think the grass is greener on the other side. So somebody who is like really happy with what they're doing and they don't feel like they need to go do something else. Because I talk to so many new wholesalers who are just like, I just want to make enough money to start flipping houses because that's where all the money is. And then a lot of flippers who say, I mean, these wholesalers don't really do anything. They just make a bunch of money all the time. These fees are great. And I pay these huge fees. I could do that. Where I think they're two wildly different businesses.
Yeah, I agree.
So okay, you found, I guess it was kind of like house flipping formula at the time or something that you went into?
Yeah.
Okay, because I remember seeing you on some of the videos and stuff I didn't know anything about that community. I heard the podcast when 7-Figure Flipping took off, this new program. So I just said, I'm joining that thing. And I didn't know anybody in House Flipping Formula. A lot of those House Flipping Formula members were the early members of 7-Figure. They all knew each other. I remember showing up at the first meeting. I had no idea who anybody was, but it seemed like they'd known each other for years. And it was a little bit tough to get into that kind of community because they were all kind of had been talking online for years and stuff. So did that change your business? Like when you jumped in there and got to know Andy and started watching the videos and stuff, or was it just still kind of slow going for you?
It still was like a roller coaster. It was like, oh, this is just not going to work. I mean, I gave up many times. I had $100 to my name at one point. I almost lost my house in foreclosure at another point. I drove Uber at another point.
Wow.
I just never gave up. I don't know. It's like in my blood to just not give up.
So at that time, so you were an agent and you started doing some wholesaling, but it just wasn't consistent. You joined House Flipping Formula thinking that was going to kind of solve your problems. Andy was going to show you exactly what to do. And so what do you think happened there? Like why didn't it take off the way that you wanted it to take off? Like what was going on? I spent like
a couple of years really like being on the calls and just implementing the info, really immersing myself in the info, getting everything together. I think two things helped. One was being able to list an MLS, but the other was getting myself out of the business because I am not a good salesperson.
Okay.
That was major. I can do it, but I really hate it. And it's just not a natural thing for me. And then there's my sister, who is just very outgoing, and everybody in Louisville is her friend, and she can do redneck really well, whatever that means. And she's just, I don't know, she just can do things that I can't. So a lot.
So when you were having those ups and downs and struggling, was your sister involved in the business then?
Well, so my sister was involved in the beginning, when I knew nothing, before I joined the group or anything. That didn't work out so well. I was on my own for a few years, and then she joined. It started very she's just going to answer the phone. It was in September of 2017. She answered the phone, and I could hear it was through the recordings. And I'm like, wow, she's really good on the phone. People really like her. And I was like, well, maybe she's good in person too. So I trained her, and she started going on appointments.
And so when she started going to appointments, was that the time that you kind of came out of that slump?
Well, we had 55 closings last year, which I was very happy.
Yeah.
That was really her first full year in this company.
So I think that's really important to highlight here, because sometimes we think that we're actually saving money and saving time and saving all of the resources, whatever you might think, by doing it all yourself. So for me, when I was going to the houses and swinging the hammer, I thought that I was saving money by doing the work instead of hiring somebody that costs a little bit more. But what I wasn't doing was I wasn't going out and look for the next property. I wasn't going out to raise more money to do a second deal. And then when I got finished with that deal, I made good money. I made $40,000. But when I did the math, it was the only deal I did the whole year. I probably was doing work for about $10 or $12 an hour. And it took me 6 more months to find the next project. So because I wasn't out looking for the deal I got done, put it on the market, and went, okay, where's the next deal? And I have to wait for this one to close to fund the next one. So then it was 2 more months before it closed. And then now I can't even, now I'm looking for the next deal. It took another 3 or 4 months to find the next one. And then the process repeated itself year over year. So it sounds like the same thing for you. You were not the best closer. You're going on these appointments. You're not buying these houses as deep a discount as you need to. And then you realize that someone could potentially be better than you. Bring your sister in, and next thing you know, you're not going bankrupt. You're not in foreclosure. You have more than $100 to your name, and you're doing 55 deals in the last year, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So joining the group joining the house swing formula wasn't that kind of silver bullet that you thought it was going to be, to just, watch the call and implement some of that stuff.
But then when I heard Mike talk about us on one of the calls, that was a big, big deal.
Just that one nugget.
Right, just that one nugget. And I think that was actually maybe in the 6-figure the group that I joined. I think just that one thing was enough to completely change everything.
Isn't that funny that some people will, when I'm talking to some people about, occasionally I'll get on a call and what is this thing? What is this group? What are you selling? And it's just look, for a lot of us, when we're doing like $3 million this year, 5 or 10% change is huge for us, right? It changed $250,000, $300,000. I mean, that could be the owner's significant owner profit for the year. But in somebody who's just starting their business, that one change, that one thing, you never know what you're going to get. You didn't go in there going, I'm going to get something that can dramatically change my business. You probably also changed your mindset, the way that you think about things, the way that you approach things, bringing your sister in and being confident that you could hire her, as opposed to just doing it yourself and being in this world of around the local people who, like you said, that they don't think like you do and don't want to grow something like you do.
Yeah.
So okay. So you mentioned 6-figure flipping. So at that time, your house flipping formula, then you joined 6-figure flipping, and you heard that, and then that significantly changed your business. So let's just fast forward. We just came out of Flip Hacking Live, and have you been to one of those before in the past?
This is my first one.
Oh, really? Okay. So your first one, so you've been in the community, been in House Living Formula, been in Six Figure, you've been to some of the events that we do, like the private mastermind events that we do, but the first time that you've been to Flip Hacking Live. So you don't really have anything to compare it to, but what did you think about that? Like, what did you expect going into it? And what did you feel like it coming out of it?
Well, I was like, well, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to make a vacation out of it. And I'm going to go to San Diego, then to Utah and see Zion National Park, and just kind of that kind of attitude. And also I worked the first day, like that whole day, like I closed on 3 houses. So I was like constantly on the computer. But then an interesting thing happened the second day. The internet was down in the entire hotel. I was losing my mind. And I couldn't work because I have a little bit of ADD. So I was like, but because of that, it made me really pay attention. And that was the day when people came on stage, and it like a light bulb just went off. It was like, wait, like they're talking about something that I think that I can do. I could see that happening. And from that point on, it was like, I don't know. I just decided I was going to join.
So, okay, let me get this straight. You didn't pay attention to anything that I did the first day?
No, I did.
Okay.
I did.
All right. So the first day, I saw you on the computer the first day. So what I did was I told the hotel to cut the internet the second day.
You did. Oh, please.
Yeah. No. So it's interesting that you say that, because in the beginning of those events, and what you'll see at all of our other mastermind events. So you obviously join the 7-Figure Altitude group, which used to be the 7-Figure Flipping group that we changed up. So, but when you go to these events, my biggest thing is to push putting those things down, like closing the computer, turning the phone off, and really being present. Because what would have happened if that one thing that you needed, that one Mike Simmons comment of listing houses on the MLS, you didn't capture at that event, and it was another year before you did, and now you have $100 left to your name, you're losing your house, you're doing all these things, and you can't get back, you can't bounce back. So that's the biggest thing that I push at these events, is to really be present at them, because I know exactly how you feel. I was there. I remember my first meeting, and Mike Simmons and I talked about it on our podcast a couple podcasts ago, about the CEO COO relationship. When we talked about, I saw Andy sending me emails at our first meeting. He's sitting on the counter with no computer, no phone. I never saw him on an electronic device, and he is sending me emails of deals. And because I'm sitting there working at the first meeting, and Justin's sitting right next to him doing the same thing. And I said, I want to figure out how to do that. And I said that was actually my goal, is to figure out how to do that inside the first year. And at the third meeting, it was in San Diego the next year, the second, that was it's like the first Flip Hacking Live. I just had everything. I put everything away. I didn't have to, because I had my team was running, and it was like 9 to 10 months when I could just shut it down for 2 days. And now it's really nice, because I can shut it down completely. Like, we can be on this call. I don't need to check my phone. I don't need to check, we're doing deals. Everything's happening. But, that's really hard to do when you're working in your business. And it sounds like you're still there, kind of, right? So I'm a little
bit of a workaholic too, I mean, that's on me. But it was really, that was major that the internet was down. I mean, it really made me pay attention in a way that I don't think I was doing up to that point. So,
do you think did anything go wrong? Did anything that you couldn't fix happen while you were away from your computer for that whole day on Friday?
No, totally.
So it's interesting, because we try to control stuff, and I'm a workaholic too. I'm a hard worker, no doubt about it. And I'll tell you, we'll rewind in a little bit, but the fact that you stuck with it and didn't quit at that time when you were really down and you had $100 to your name and all these things is it just a testament to the hard worker and the kind of person that you are, and not going to quit. And those are the kind of people that become successful in despite of everything else. So first Flip Hacking Live, the internet was down. You started paying attention. What were the kind of things that you heard at that? Like, what was it that was kind of what kind of motivation did you get from that? What is, other than just obviously joining the group, but like what takeaway did you take from that event that was powerful for you?
I mean, when people were on stage, just regular people were on stage talking about where they were to making $1 million and more. And it just hit me. I was like, I want to be a millionaire. Like, I want to be a multimillionaire. And I think that these guys can help me. Like, in fact, I know they can help me. And then I started crying, and I don't know why. I was so emotional. I could not stop crying.
So like you're sitting in the audience crying?
Yeah, and I had to go to my room for a little while.
Okay. I want to hear about this. So when was this? This was during the panel you're talking about?
Yeah, it was after the panel when everybody went to sign up if they wanted to. Like, I had to go calm down for a little while because I was very emotional. Like, I felt like I don't know what you're going to think about this, but I almost felt like my father's present with me in that hotel, and just this very strong feeling of this is exactly what you need to do right now.
Okay. So we did the panel. The panel was, and just for anybody who wasn't there, I just brought a couple people up and just tell their story a little bit, like where they were. A lot of different people. We had some Ariane Lemire, and she was up there. She's been, her and Chris, they've been on the podcast before, talking about their story a little bit, and a couple other people that I'll hopefully bring on the podcast to you guys and share some of their story. But very similar to some of the interviews that we've done in the past of people and that were kind of at a point that made a change and reached $1 million or more, or even, 200,000-300,000, just seeing success in their business and just trying to show people that this is just regular people. There's nothing special in anything that we're doing, anything that they're doing, any of that stuff. And it's interesting that you had that kind of reaction to that. I wonder if, did you just feel like you could be up there? You saw yourself there, or?
I saw myself. In fact, that's one of my goals, is to be up there one day. I don't know. It just all kind of came together. I realized how much money I made, how many deals we closed on, and without really a big team, just me and my sister and a couple of VAs, a lawyer. I just saw the possibilities there.
So maybe you saw yourself at another position, and it just kind of hit you that. So do you feel like that event was a turning point for you in where you're going, or was it something that you just realized, hey, I don't know, what was it about? Was it the event? Was it the people? Was it the atmosphere, the whole environment? Because I feel like the energy kind of like went up at that event somehow.
Honestly, Bill, it was you. To be honest, your energy is unlike anybody I've ever met. And it's very sincere. I have a pretty good bullshit, meter, whatever. And just meeting you and talking to you and listening to you, that had a lot to do with it.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm honored to be a part of that, and thank you very much. My whole mission for this event was to do something different than what we've always done, and be more authentic, just kind of more just open and honest, and to share a lot of we all have struggles, right? It's a lot of what we're doing here on the podcast. People that are coming on, they're starting to see that the different kind of people that are in this business. It's not suit wearing, Lamborghini driving people that are in our community. It's people who really care about other people. And when we do that, that's how you run a successful business, right? So exactly what we've been talking about. So, look, I appreciate that. I didn't know that was part of it, but it's awesome. I'm honored to be a part of your journey and your decision. And I know that we've kind of seen each other on video calls, but it's very impersonal, right? Like even this, we're so far away. We're so just disjointed when we talk on computers and things like that now. And just being there. And what I found from it, what I really took from it, is that we just have an awesome community of people that we attract people that are like us to this event. And I've never seen the kind of energy go up over time. Usually it kind of goes up a little bit, then it crashes at the end. At a lot of these events, people just get kind of overwhelmed and stuff. But I felt like people didn't want to leave. They didn't want to stop. They didn't want to go back to their room. They just wanted to stay there, which I'd never seen at any of the other events we've done. And I was even, I have a problem being around a big group of people for long periods of time. And I was fine. Yeah, I stayed. Yeah, it doesn't look that way, right? But at the end, my batteries are like completely drained. That Saturday night, I went up to my hotel room and some of the members were up there and everything like that. And it's like Andy was up there and Becca and Terry and Adam and Jeremiah and Mike Simmons. And I just said, guys, look, you can stay in the hotel room. You can stay in my room as long as you want, but I got to go to bed. It was like 9:00. Yeah. And I was out in 2 seconds. It's just completely on empty. Because we tried to leave it all out on the stage, right? Yeah. So, okay. So you saw that. So tell me about your dad. You saw your dad. What do you mean?
I didn't see my dad. I just kind of felt his presence. I don't know. I don't really know how to describe it.
So what is?
I just got very.
What is his influence in you? What is it about? Tell me about your dad a little bit.
My father was an entrepreneur and an inventor. He spent his whole life trying to invent things. He had a patent for something, very business oriented. I look just like him, almost identical. So we have a lot alike, in common.
So what did he teach you something when you were young? What was it? Feel like?
I mean, most of his businesses didn't work out and his patents didn't work. Like he still picked himself up and just moved on. He just never gave up. He had cancer. He died from brain cancer. Even at the end, he was fighting that. He wasn't going to give in to that. But some battles you just can't win.
Was he on your list in the beginning of the event?
Was he what?
Was he one of the people on your list in the beginning? The first presentation that I did, I don't know, maybe you came late or were you there? So we talked about core values and who has influenced your life. Was he a big part of your life, like influencing your life? Yeah. So I could see that. Absolutely. So when you moved back to Louisville, that was when, at the time when your dad passed away. Mm-hmm. Sorry to hear that. So, okay. So you were at the event and you felt this, you went up to your room, you got refreshed. So what was the rest of the event like? Was it different for you? Was that like kind of the turning point for you? And then you saw
that was the turning point. And I actually wanted to skip the last day because I wanted to see San Diego. And I talked to Andy about that a little bit because I didn't realize it was 3 days. I thought it was 2. So I was accidentally there for the 3rd day. But Andy and I kind of looked at each other. I'm like, all right, Lou's going to have to wait. I'm staying to the very end. And so I did, because at that point when I decided that I was joining, I was paying very close attention. The computer wasn't an issue anymore.
Okay. So it sounds like we kind of had to force you into this mindset of, this is actually valuable content. I need to pay attention. I'm getting some things from this. Let me put my computer away and turn my phone off and just be immersed in it. All right, good. We converted one person at this event from a skeptic of what do these guys know? I'm going to do a little bit, do half and half. So I do that a lot. I have, you know what, before this, we were, Nate, my COO, and I were on a call with our EOS coach, and he said he was giving us a visionary integrator, like the rocket fuel type presentation for us in preparation for our event. And he said, here's some qualities of a visionary: ADD, not paying attention, easily distracted, all these things. While he's saying that, I am looking at my other screen with my email up, reading an email, and he goes, Bill, what do you think about that? And I was like, I totally agree.
Oh, that's great.
It's exactly what you're talking about, right? But that's why we are the visionaries of our companies. That's why we are so successful. That's why we do well as business owners and entrepreneurs, is because we are able to juggle 5 different things at once.
In fact, was not going to join any groups. Like, I came to San Diego with, I'm not joining any groups. Like, I'm not going to pay that much money. What are they, crazy?
And this is from somebody who has been in the other groups before. Like you were a member of Six Figure Flipping, and you were a member of House Moving Formula before that. Let's talk about that now that you bring it up. You're like, no way, this guy's not getting any money out of my pocket. No chance. So it was just the fact that you could see this group being what you needed to get to the next level, or what?
this was for real. Like, you guys were for real. This group was for real. The people were for real. And I just believed in it 100%. And I still do.
Didn't you already know that?
Yeah. But now I know more.
All right. So you came in and joined the altitude group. So we had this 7-figure runway and the 7-figure altitude groups, and you've been kind of in the Facebook group for it's about a month, maybe a little less, and been on some of the calls and things that we've been doing. So has there been any change in your business or anything that you've seen that's changing you?
Like, the best thing I could have done was join this group. For me personally, I feel alone a lot of the time with my ideas. I don't have people to talk to. I just get on the group, put whatever discussions, people's content. It's been really awesome.
Okay. So that's how I felt too. I felt like, especially when you don't have a business partner or anything like that, and you don't have necessarily anybody else to bounce things off of, ideas, and just kind of being around people that are just like you, that think like you, act like you, talk like you, and just, I don't know, it gives you this, and it gives you this arena to work with, like some people that are running similar businesses that have the same struggles as you. They'll celebrate your wins, and they'll help you. They'll pick you up when you're down.
I think it helps to also see the possibilities. Like, if you see people, you believe in them, and you see that they're where you want to be and they've done it, you now have a blueprint for being able to get there, versus, being surrounded by people that don't even think that way. That's just not a possibility for them.
Totally agree. So what were your goals kind of going into that event, and how have they changed since that?
I kind of felt like, wow, like I should, I feel really fortunate. I should feel fortunate. I made all this money this year, and I really hope that I can do the same, next year. And now it's like, no, like I want to know exactly what's working, what's not working. I want to tweak it. I want to double it. I think I can, and I'm doing everything that I absolutely can to make it happen. So
do you have any like actionable things? So after that event, was there anything that you're like, okay, in the next 12 months, I'm going to put this, and this in place? Like, where are you? Like, where are you going? So you did 55 deals last year. Are you around the same number?
Last year, about the same. This year, I think we grossed about 569,000 last year, probably similar this year. Just kind of looked at my business in a different way, not like so grateful, to be around, more like step back and look what worked, what didn't, why, and how can I double that? So now we have another acquisition person. So there's something about that, I think, that'll help. And researching the market, like on a daily basis, like MLS access, buyers, lists, like every day there's something. And I'm excited.
Yeah. And, I'll tell you from being on the outside looking at you and seeing your kind of journey over these past few years with us. And right now, what I see in you is a lot more confidence. I think probably what you got from this event, from the transition that I see in you now, and some of the comments and questions that you're asking and things like that, is that you realize that you were really, really successful. And whereas I think before you might not have had that validation in yourself from other people and probably yourself, like just the fact that you didn't necessarily think that you were as successful as you are. You come to this event, people are asking you questions. They're looking at you like, whoa, you're doing way more than I thought I could ever do. But then you're also seeing people that are up there doing more than you're doing. And you're in the middle going, exactly. I can go there, but I feel like you just really needed that other people believing in you, and that you finally accepting it yourself and saying, I'm a rock star. And I think you're there now. Like, I think you have there's this change in you where you're not doubting yourself. Like, I've seen you on calls before where you're asking questions like, Marina, you know the answer to that. You know what to do. Like, you're there just constantly at that point where now I really feel like you've it's funny because we played a lot of music from The Greatest Showman at our event. And if you ever, like, go back and watch the when they're trying to get greenlit for The Greatest Showman, there's a video of them pitching their last investor, and the singer from This Is Me, the bearded lady, right? And this is a long story and I might butcher it, but Hugh Jackman has had surgery. So he had stitches all over his face. They had makeup on, but they were pitching this investor, and she's not necessarily the most like out front and personable person, but a phenomenal singer, and she did a phenomenal job in the movie. But that song, This Is Me, there's a part in this YouTube video that you could see where she actually kind of like, they think they're going to get greenlit. She actually comes out from behind. I wish we had the clip right here. She comes out and you could just see her kind of like shed this person in the same song that is This Is Me. She like sheds this kind of shyness a little bit and comes out, and you could see the guys that wrote the music on the piano that start banging a little harder. And then Hugh Jackman stands up and like he just starts singing like he's not allowed to sing. The doctor said, do not sing. And everybody is involved, and it just erupts inside of this audition where it comes alive. I just got chills watching it, even just talking about it right now. And that's what I see in you, is just like there's transformation that happened somehow. And I don't know what it was, but I see it. I can see the change in you. So I know from before that you might have been at that 55, 60 deals. And now there's no limit to you or anybody else that can get that feeling inside this group or anywhere else for that matter. Once you feel that and you know it and you own it internally, game over. Like nobody's going to stop you in anything that you do now. So yeah,
I think that is the biggest difference. I feel different. I really do. I feel different.
It's awesome. And we will never pinpoint what it was or what it is. And I think it's just being around really great people. And because I feel way different than when I showed up at that Dana Point meeting for the first time. I mean, I'm a significantly different person for that since then. And it's just being around people that make me a better person. And
people are everything. They really are.
That's it. And now the key for you is to take that and figure out how to give it to the other people that are on your team. Because when they believe that and feel like that, there's no stopping your team. Like right now, there's no stopping you, but you've got to figure out how to be that leader and pour into those people where they feel that way too, in their position and their roles. And they realize that they're in the right place. So you realize you're in the right place. You got it. You owned it. It's time to just explode now. So there's definitely nothing stopping you. I guarantee it. So watch out, world. Watch out. If you are in a surrounding area around Louisville, you better watch out, because Marina is asking me questions about market expansion and where do I go and what do I do and how do I blow this thing up. So I think I'm really excited to see what you do with it and where you take it. And I'm excited for your sister to be on the ride with you and everybody else. And I'm happy that you came into the community and became part of it. Again,
happy to. Thank you.
So what else? Anything else that you want to share with the listeners kind of before we go?
Not really. Just don't give up. Don't give up.
So don't give up. When you have $100 in your name, there's still more you can still dig deeper, right? And I think some of the biggest things are, don't discount some of the tips and tricks that you're given from someone. Like if you had taken that thing and said, oh yeah, wholesaling on the MLS, well, somebody told me that that's illegal, so I'm not going to do it. You probably had to work to figure out how to do it, right?
Oh, the minute I did that, my MLS people went crazy and they said it was illegal. And my lawyer jumped in and was like, no, it's not. Yep. And they put me right back on. So yeah, immediately. There's people everywhere that tell you can't do things. Just, you got to find out for yourself.
Figure out how to do it. Figure out how. So somebody knows how. Your lawyer knew how. So is the Dan Sullivan thing that we talked about, right? Find the who that knows how to do it. And it was your lawyer. He figured it out. He got you back and you did it. And that's the thing. Everybody's going to say, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do this. Look, that's fine. Believe that. Like, go ahead. But I'm just going to be over here do it with integrity, be ethical about everything that you do. And do right by the people, right? Take care of the people. Yeah. And that's it. It's a people game. It's a people business. Everything is. So, all right. Well, hey, I appreciate you spending some time with me. I had a lot of fun. I learned some things about you I had no idea about. And it's It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your experience, and being somewhat vulnerable about some things that that happened. And thanks for telling me that you weren't paying attention to me the first day. That's good. I'm going to be scanning the audience next year, looking for people that have their computers. So I had a lot of fun putting on that event. I think it was different than anything that we've done. I'm excited about doing it next year at wherever we do it. So, all right, Marina. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate you kind of sharing your story and some of
thanks for having me on.
Some of your background. Absolutely. And we'll share the original one in the show notes. And then what we'll do is you can listen to that one, you can listen to this one, and see if you can hear and feel and see the difference in the woman that's leading this company in Louisville, Kentucky. So you're not far from me, so we need to get together a couple more times. Maybe I'll fly up there and say hi and hang out for a little bit. So I've always wanted to go up to Louisville. That'd be cool. All right, Marina. Thanks. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the 7-Figure Flipping Podcast with Bill Allen. If you want to grow and scale your house flipping or wholesaling business, check out more insider tips and strategies from the nation's most successful real estate investors at 7figureflipping.com.